Today, we're jumping into the incredible story of Joshua, a man who basically inherited an impossible mission. His job, to lead a nation of former slaves into a new land and conquer it. It's a journey filled with faith, fear, and the messy business of forging a nation.
And the whole story kicks off with these powerful words. This isn't just some nice advice, it's a direct command. Be strong, be courageous, don't be terrified. This idea, this command, becomes the drumbeat for everything that's about to happen.
So, how did Joshua get to this point? Well, the story really begins at the end of an era. A legendary leader is gone, and the transition to a new one is, to put it mildly, a little stressful. I mean, just try to imagine the uncertainty. For 40 years, the people of Israel had one guy in charge, Moses. He brought them out of Egypt, he got the 10 Commandments, he was a giant, a legend. And now, he's gone. The whole nation is just standing there on the edge of this new land, probably feeling pretty lost and afraid. And who has to step into those massive shoes? Joshua, Moses' longtime right-hand man. And his first assignment from God? Whoa. It's not some small task like, hey, keep everyone organized. No, it is direct and daunting. Cross that river and take that land. A land filled with fortified cities and seriously powerful enemies. No pressure, right? So right out of the gate, Joshua's leadership is put to the test. And I mean really tested. He immediately faces two obstacles. And honestly, each one looks completely impossible to overcome. First things first, recon. Joshua sends a couple of spies into the city of Jericho, which is basically a fortress. They nearly get caught, but they find help from the most unexpected person, a prostitute named Rahab. She makes a deal with them. She'll hide them and help them escape if they promise to save her family when the city is attacked. The signal? A scarlet rope hanging from her window. But you know, the most important piece of intel they bring back isn't about the height of the walls. It's about the morale inside. They report that the people of the land are absolutely melting in fear. That changes everything. Okay, so Jericho is scouted, but there's just one tiny problem. Getting there means crossing the Jordan River. And we're not talking about a gentle, babbling brook here. The text says it's at flood stage, which means it's a raging, churning, impassable torrent. So how on earth are you supposed to get an entire nation, men, women, children, across that? Now, to really get what happens next, you have to know about the Ark of the Covenant. This was not just some fancy gold box. For the Israelites, this was it. It was the literal, physical symbol of God's presence with them. It was the very center of their faith. So Joshua orders the priests to pick up the ark and just walk straight into the flooded river. It's a huge act of faith. And the moment their feet touch the water, bam, the river just stops. The water piles up in a heap miles away, and the entire nation walks across on totally dry ground. This miracle does more than just get them across a river. It shows everyone that God is with Joshua, just like he was with Moses. So, they're across the Jordan. Feeling pretty good, right? Well, their faith is about to get another huge test. The story gives us this really powerful lesson through two battles, one right after the other, with completely different results. All right, they're on the other side staring up at the massive walls of Jericho. And the battle plan they get is, well, it's bizarre. Seriously, no battering rams, no siege towers, no scaling ladders. The instructions are march around the city once a day for 6 days, in silence. Then, on the 7th day, march around it 7 times, have the priests blow their trumpets, and then have the whole army let out a huge shout. As a military strategy, it makes absolutely zero sense. And you know what? It works. Against all logic, it totally works. They follow these crazy instructions perfectly, and the impenetrable walls of Jericho just crumble. It's a stunning victory that has nothing to do with military power and everything to do with complete obedience. So they're riding high on this incredible win. They turn their attention to the next town, a much smaller city called Assi. The scouts come back and say, this is an easy one. We only need a couple thousand guys. A piece of cake, right? Nope. It's a total disaster. They get completely routed, 36 men are killed, and the rest are chased out of town. The text says the people's hearts melted and became like water. After the miracle at Jericho, this is a shocking, humiliating defeat. So what happened? How did they go from that amazing victory to this? Joshua is crushed, but the reason comes out pretty quick. One single soldier, a guy named Achan,
had directly disobeyed God's command not to take any loot from Jericho. He secretly took some stuff and buried it in his tent. It's a really stark lesson. One person's secret disobedience led to the entire nation's public failure. So, once that sin is dealt with, Joshua is commanded to go back. Attack Ai again, this time with the whole army and a brand new strategy that involves setting up an ambush. And this time, a decisive victory. The contrast could not be clearer. Victory against a super strong enemy came from obedience. Defeat against a weak enemy came from disobedience. The lesson was learned. Okay, with those foundational lessons in place, the conquest of the land begins for real, and it unfolds in two big campaigns. And now the story starts moving fast. After the Israelites make a treaty with a local group, the Gibeonites, a coalition of 5 southern kings gets nervous and decides to attack them. Joshua, honoring the treaty, marches his army all night long to go defend his new allies. And right in the middle of this massive battle, we get maybe the most famous moment in the whole book. To finish the fight before nightfall, Joshua actually asks God to make the sun and moon stand still in the sky. And the text says the sun delayed going down for about a full day. Incredible. It doesn't stop there. News of these victories spreads north, and an even bigger coalition of kings forms against them. The book describes their army as being as numerous as the sand on the seashore, with tons of horses and chariots. It looks like impossible odds. Yet Joshua follows God's orders, launches a surprise attack, and wins completely.
So when all the dust settles from these major campaigns, what's the final count? 31 kings defeated on the west side of the Jordan River. The core of the Promised Land had been secured.
And with that, the major fighting is over. The land, as the text says, had rest from war. And now we enter the final chapter of Joshua's life. Joshua is an old man now, and his last big job is to see this thing through to the end. He oversees the huge task of dividing up all the conquered land, carefully giving each of the 12 tribes of Israel their own territory. The promise made to their ancestors generations ago was finally being fulfilled. Before he dies, he gives this final farewell address to the whole nation. He gathers everyone, he reminds them of their history, all the good and the bad, and then he lays down a challenge, a choice that has echoed through the centuries. But he doesn't just leave it as a question for them. He makes his own position perfectly clear. He brings it all home with this powerful, personal declaration. This one sentence really becomes the defining statement of his entire life and his legacy.
You see, in the end, the story of Joshua is so much more than a war story. It's about what it takes to be a leader, about the real-world consequences of obedience and disobedience, and about that difficult, messy journey from being a wandering people to becoming a nation with a home. Which leaves us with a question that feels just as relevant today. After all the battles are won and the land is secured, what is it? What's the shared commitment, that common choice that truly holds a people together?